Hey, good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us tonight. We're going to go ahead and get started with the webinar. Obviously, we know that we are living in some very unprecedented times here, so we appreciate all of your time. My name is Chris Allen, and I'm the Education Product Manager for Student Reporting Labs, and I get to be your host tonight. For those of you that are not familiar with Student Reporting Labs, we are actually part of the PBS NewsHour. We work with middle school and high school students across the country, and we provide curriculum and educational resources for teaching students journalism and video production in the classroom. Just so you know, we are recording this session tonight, so if you can't stay for the entire time, no problem, go ahead and jump off, and we will email out the link to the webinar and any resources that we share after we're done. So really quick before we get started, I wanted to share this really awesome video that was put together with some of the panelists that you'll be hearing from tonight and produced by ASCD. So I'm going to go ahead and play this really quick.
Our seniors are living an experience that few of us can begin to imagine.
It is so important for seniors to have the opportunity to share their COVID-19 stories because no one in our lifetime has lived through anything like this before. Seniors are in a really unique opportunity to be able to tell us what has been impactful for them, what is important to them, and how they're going to move forward in such turbulent times.
We want you to know that you're not in this alone. Your teachers have heard your cry. And so we've reached out to Student Reporting Labs from PBS and ASCD, and in a joint partnership, we've created a platform for you to be able to share your stories about how you're going to overcome COVID-19 and become the next greatest generation.
We are listening to you. We are here for you. We are thinking about you. We are cheering for you. And we are hoping that your future is just as bright as it's always been.
Share your stories with each other, but also with us. The world needs to hear your voices. Hashtag Senior Portrait.
Go to our website at studentreportinglabs.org to learn more.
Sorry, everybody. I saw a couple people chatting and then there was some audio issues. Hopefully most of you were able to catch that, but it will also be part of the recording afterwards. So here is our agenda for tonight, what we're going to be talking about. But really quick before we get started, I wanted to go over a couple of things. We are planning on leaving lots of time at the end of this for some Q&A. So if you have any questions for any of the panelists specifically or about the Senior Portrait campaign that we're about to launch, and you'll hear more about here in a little bit, feel free to drop those questions in the Q&A box, and we will either be answering them live at the end of the webinar, or we'll send you a quick message with those. Also, our chat box is open, so please feel free, drop in a quick message, share your thoughts or ideas with you as we go through this. I would like to give a quick shout out to Marcus Markey. He is the director here at Student Reporting Labs, and he's kind of behind the scenes chatting with y'all as we go through this. Here is who we will be hearing from tonight. We have Joe Fothery and Catherine Whittington. They're going to be sharing with us where the idea for Senior Portrait really came from and the why behind why we're all doing this. And then we'll hear from Leah Clapman. She is the PBS NewsHour Managing Editor of Education, as well as the founder of Student Reporting Labs. And then finally, we have Amanda Honda, who is the Director of Engagement or Educator Engagement at ASCD, who's gonna wrap us up and share with us more information about how we can all stay connected and engaged. So with that, I am actually going to go ahead and kick it right over to Joe and Catherine.
Catherine, go ahead. Oh, Catherine's muted.
I
There
just
we go.
unmuted myself. I'm sorry. My name is Catherine Whittington, or Daphne. I'm a teacher on the far south side of Chicago. And I came up with this idea. So CPS, my school district, had the e-learning platform that they chose to promote for their e-learning rollout, which was the day after Easter, was mostly test prep. And I teach only seniors. So I'd asked my principal if it was okay if I just went ahead and did what I was already doing in Google Classroom with them and did my own assignments, and he said, fine. And as I was designing and uploading those assignments on Easter Sunday, it occurred to me how it lacked relevance to the urgency and the gravity of the things that my kids were dealing with. And when I had reached out to them and talked to them, like those students who I was in contact with were just devastated. And so it initially was just an idea to create a website for my kids. And then I reached out. The only one who took my phone call on Easter Sunday was Bill Pulaski, who's in the chat. He's participating. I saw him. He took my phone call and he was very excited about it because I was thinking about doing like an urban rural thing. But then everyone that I talked to was very, very excited about it. And thankfully, I eventually talked to Joe, who had the connections to make it actually happen. Like I was trying to get it up and running for a very long time, and then Student Reporting Labs and ASCD and PBS, and all of that was thanks to Joe.
Well, I teach seniors. I'm an instructor of innovation and creativity at Effingham High School, and a proud member of the National Network of State Teachers of the Year, and a Varkey Teacher Ambassador from the Global Teacher Prize. And I have access to a lot of seniors around the country and around the world. And as this has just gone on, the thing that really hit me after Catherine called was, the senior year is supposed to be a time of celebration, and it's a time of hope, and it's where teachers come together and we're helping those students develop that the piece of confidence they need to step out the door on their own and really take life on. And it's the time for parents to, really sit back and look and the pride that they have, in their children. And it's that last time for the kids to be able to have lunch with their friends, for prom, for athletics, the tears and the laughter and all of that. And unfortunately, it's been taken away. And as Catherine called me, I thought, I'm on quarantine right now as well. I wonder what it's like in the minds of these kids. And they need a place to be able to tell stories. They need to know that we're behind them and they're not in this alone, and that they're going to get through this, and that it's okay to be afraid, and it's okay to continue to dream, and it's okay to continue to wonder. But where would they do that at? And so I've been fortunate over the last couple of years to serve on an advisory board for ASCD, and I have just, a lot of strong feelings for the organization. And I called up someone who's become a really good friend of mine, Naman, and reached out to her, and she didn't bat an eye. She's like, absolutely, we need to be doing this. And it's something that ASCD would like to get behind. And we started talking about, well, who would be a natural partner? And again, she came back very quickly and said, Student Reporting Labs does incredible work out there. And so in a very short period of time, we had a phone call, and I've done a lot of production work over the years, and I can't tell you a time that I've ever worked with another group of people that have bigger hearts and who have given everything to make sure that these kids have a platform to share their stories on. And so I've just been taken back. I get choked up thinking about just how nice it is and refreshing it is to find people out there that care at this level, that want to support students and teachers in what they're doing. So we're kicking off this really global campaign where students can use social media and the hashtag student or senior portrait to really share their stories and do things. And so, Catherine, what did you think was the real purpose in doing this? What are you hoping to get out of it? What do you see the validity in these stories? What do you hope that brings?
Well, I think that I think they have things that they need to say, and I think it's cathartic for them, absolutely. Like there are voices there are things that they need to get out, but I think at the same time, there's so many adults having conversations about this group of kids. Like there's so many people talking about them like they know what's going on and what that experience is, and no one has lived that experience. None of us have, and no one who's alive ever has, And so their voices need to be part of the story. One. Two, I think there needs to be a living history. There needs to be an archive of this moment in time. And they're the only ones who can create that because it's their lives, you know, it's their story.
Well, and I think one of the things we talk about as teachers is all the time is we want our students involved, and we want them to take the lessons they learn at school, and that transfers out into the real world. And, you know, but a lot of times people say that and those opportunities aren't there. And this is really a chance for high school seniors to share their story on the global stage, and to not only be a cathartic thing where they're able to heal and be able to build synergy around each other's emotions and, you know, be able to learn from one another. I think it's also a way to teach adults how to listen to student voice. And I think it's a way for students to impact potential policy down the road, to impact, you know, how school and education is offered and delivered. And so I really want students to think about the power of their voice and the power behind this messaging. So, you know, I'm excited that they're going to be able to join hands and we're going to be able to celebrate this incredible senior class. But I'm also excited about what we as adults can learn and take away from this. And I know, I think kind of the last piece we really wanted to talk about is this archival piece where people can kind of look back years later and it becomes a living history for generations to learn from. Kind of what's your thoughts behind that?
Well, that was the original thought anyway. Was I wanted to create a platform, and hopefully over the summer building a platform that just is meant to house these stories. But it's their experience is so unique, and I don't even think that they realize it. I think that adults from the outside kind of do, but I feel like having an archive, having a space that will permanently document this history in this particular moment is a worthwhile endeavor.
And I guess my last piece, and Chris, we'll turn it back over to you, is all the people who are on tonight and all the people who will hear this later, all the people who will potentially use the hashtag senior portrait. I really want you to think about the power of one. And, you know, we talked about the power of one and social distancing with COVID-19 and how important it is for us to be able to quarantine and keep to ourselves. This is not the time to do that with this hashtag. This is the power of one in reverse and being able to have a real positive message, and for you to share in your social network and to your friends, senior moms and dads, senior students, teachers around the world, grandmas and grandpas, to really get out there and share this story so that it takes on you know, a viral aspect and it grows exponentially. This is a positive use of the power of one. So I'd really love to see a lot of people get behind this. This is way beyond Catherine and myself and all the other people on the panel tonight. This is for our kids, and we'd love for you to all take part of this and to really let us join hands together and share this message in a positive way. So, Chris?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really awesome, Joe. I love how you just put that, because I know, you know, here at Student Reporting Labs, we were having conversations too, where, you know, people were posting pictures from their proms back in the day. I know our team put together a Spotify playlist of like our favorite prom songs and stuff like that. But our internal conversation was still, how can we kind of bring the most impact to the situations? And it was deciding through sharing student voice and what they're going through and what they're experiencing, and, you know, documenting that. And it wasn't a day or two later was when we kind of landed in our inboxes the idea for this conversation that we're having tonight. So I wanted to go ahead and share, this is a video that was put together by Marie, one of our youth media producers, and it's kind of an example of what that student voice looks like.
So now that we got the call saying school's gonna be over for the rest of the year, I was really sad because I don't get to see everybody that I see in my classes.
A lot of the events that I was looking forward to as a senior are now canceled, such as prom, senior picnic.
We have to miss out on graduation and grad night and prom, our senior prom, our senior yearbook signing.
These last moments of just eating lunch together or just sitting together, things that you would take for granted are now taken away from you.
I'm far more heard about the athletics that I miss as a senior, especially because this was set out to be a good year for us.
It's hard going out of state to a university where you don't know whether or not the coronavirus will be a thing in August. And so I don't know whether or not I want to pay full price to go to university if I'm going to have to come home and do virtual classes.
In terms of what's going to happen, I don't know, since we all don't know how long we're going to be in quarantine for. So I don't know if I'm going to be here still doing online classes from home, or if I'm actually able to go to the campus that I want to in LA, and then from there having to find a job there. But it has passed in my mind that maybe I should stay here and miss a year and then just kind of help work with the family and help them in whatever way I can to support them financially to recover from what's been happening.
I hope this motivates my generation to be more politically active if they haven't been already. This is not the time. We don't have any more time to be ignorant.
Things that have always been a problem, but now are very much so more in the spotlight, that makes us as a generation far more politically active, I think.
Despite all of the tragedies we've been through, I think we're going to enter adulthood more united than ever before. We don't want any future generations to have to go through any of these events. And I think because of this, we're going to be so politically motivated to get our voices heard and start changing the world for the better.
All right. Such a great video. So I'm going to kick it over to Leah now to share a little bit more about the student portrait campaign and the process for how to get involved and get your seniors involved.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. And thank you, everybody who kind of voiced where this project came from and the kind of real goals that you have to both have the seniors be able to express their feelings, but then also I made that connection, Joe, when you were talking about this is an opportunity for students to have a voice in policy. And what I love about the piece that we just saw is that this was part of our regular kind of our call out to the whole Student Reporting Labs network to start to talk about and describe the impact of COVID-19 on their lives. And these were kind of senior voices that filter through. And then we worked with our local PBS station, PBS SoCal in Southern California in the LA area. And this was actually a part of a piece of content that ran on their air. So, you can see that there are a lot of connections between local PBS stations, public media stations, and the NewsHour, and then Student Reporting Lab's long history of working with teenagers to help them express themselves and to kind of build on moments to be able to be part of a national conversation about what's going to be going on. And so you heard those students say, like, I might put off college. I might, not want to pay full price to go to a university when I might be learning, from home and online classes. So you really do start to get at, policy implications and what's going to happen in the future as we go back to whatever comes next. But so I want to describe the process, and this does come out of years of making curriculum like this. So we kind of reverse engineer what we know would be good content. So the first part of this process is to have the students really think about what's going on in their lives, and that this is unprecedented, this COVID virus shutdown of schools, and that this is really their opportunity to write the first draft of history. And as Catherine and Joe talked about, as like history teachers and English teachers, we want to be able to communicate to students that these pieces that they're putting out there, these videos that they're going to be making, are kind of going to be primary sources one day. The way that they use primary sources about history, these are going to be primary sources for future generations. So we're really excited to kind of bring that, picture of the purpose of their content creation to students and to the project. So the first step, and as I said, this comes from our years of doing this kind of curriculum response to moments in time and to current events. The first step is going to be to write down what they're thinking, what kinds of stories they might want to tell that describe the life that they're living right now. So we came up with a couple of questions. These are some sample questions in the directions, and we'll provide links in the chat, and you can see it on our website. There are maybe 6 or 7 questions, and here are a few, kind of examples. So what have you lost due to the pandemic? And like, we really have worked with students enough to know that we're asking them to be specific. We're asking them to use details. We're asking them to, describe what's going on in their lives the way they would describe it to a friend or to a sibling. One of the questions that I love and that I found really effective is, what don't adults understand about teenagers and about how this crisis is affecting high school students? I think that helps them feel like they have some of that power that we just talked about to be able to have a voice in more like adult national conversations by kind of explaining to adults what they think they don't understand about their lives and the kind of misconceptions that happen between generations and the way that adults look at teenagers and adolescents. And then also we wanted to kind of have these are the real challenges I'm facing, but here's what I'm learning about myself. Here's what I'm learning about myself during this, really kind of difficult time. And another question that comes later is, if another generation is facing this or another class is facing this, like the class of 2025, what advice would you give them, from what you're going through right now? So really, these are questions that, we're hoping will really help them express themselves and come up with some really, poignant human responses. So step 2 is record. And again, this comes out of the Student Reporting Lab's curriculum. We're expecting them to, some of the students are used to recording themselves vertically for Snapchat and Instagram. That's fine. Horizontal is probably best if it's the kind of content that we're going to be able to use on the NewsHour. As you saw in the piece that we played, sometimes when it's vertical, we can do things to the sides of it so that it works for a horizontal screen. But they can, feel comfortable doing it the way that they feel like they are expressing themselves best. And there's all kinds of resources on the Student Reporting Lab's website that help them with lighting, that help them with framing. We want audio to be as high quality as possible because, again, we want these stories to be available to local PBS stations, to ASCD, to any of our partners and stakeholders who want to use this content in different creative ways. And the directions are very specific and short and to the point. So we do want the video to be a max 2 minutes, and we want the students to think about what they're going to say before they say it, and plan out kind of the where they want to go with what they're doing. So on the next slide, we talk about watching their video and revising. Again, Student Reporting Labs has a lot of great resources for editing. We have a series called Level Up, and those are video tutorials. They're usually around 3 to 5 minutes. And very specifically, they help students understand what visually goes into a good piece of video. And then also the audio, of course, is really important. And this is something that, I don't think students who haven't done filmmaking before kind of really get, is that, it's really hard to watch video that doesn't have good audio. And so, this is a chance to kind of like help them to sneak in some video production skills, which can also really, kind of help them in whatever they're going to do with their futures after high schools. So the 4th step is to post it, of course, and we're using the hashtag senior portrait. And we'll talk a little bit more about what we're going to do with this content afterwards, but we are really excited to gather it, to have a really strong group from ASCD and Joe's video group, and we're going to look at all these videos, and then we're going to pick the best ones. So we're really excited. Student Reporting Labs is really excited to be able to offer a prize for the best video. The top 3 videos will receive gift cards of $250 to, either it can be kind of a fun gift card, or we know that a lot of our students we've heard are, really facing some real economic challenges. So we're also seeing this as an opportunity that it could be grocery shopping, or it could be something that they'll feel like they're able to, really help their family and help the situation at home economically. So we're really excited about this challenge and the idea that it's going to be shared widely throughout so many different networks and ASCD, all the teachers and all the kind of administrative people who feel like this would be a really positive experience for their seniors in their community. So now I'm going to pass it on to Aman to talk about what happens with the content after it's published and how we as joint partners are going to celebrate the content.
Awesome, thanks, Leah. So I just wanted to reiterate that the deadline we have posted is May 22nd. In order to be eligible for the contest, we want the posted videos to be posted by that date, but don't let that date stop you and keep you from posting how things are going as your senior year comes to an end. So we at ASCD and SRL really believe in elevating student voices, and we know the best way to spread the word is to share with the people in your networks. So we're encouraging you, whether you're a student or a teacher or a family member, to share this opportunity to share stories with other high school students, teachers, administrators, your parents, counselors, career counselors, community members, and like Joe and Catherine said, the decision makers and the people who are making these policies and choices for the students, they need to be hearing these stories as well. Share them with other organizations you're connected to. If you're an educator, get the word out and tell everyone you know. We encourage you to share on social media as well as in school and district newsletters. If that's an opportunity to be able to spread the word, share it with your school board. Send a link to your school board meeting. And as Joe and Catherine stated earlier, not only do we want students to be able to share these stories, we also want people to be hearing them. So this is a really key component to this whole campaign is let's hear these stories. So we encourage you to go and listen to them, follow the hashtag, interact with these students, encourage them, and use the hashtag so that students feel seen and heard and that they know that their stories matter. We'll be keeping an eye on the videos as they get posted. And we'll come up with some criterion for judging. And even though we're only selecting 3 of the videos for prizes, we're gonna hopefully be able to use some of the footage for other campaigns as well so that we can also continue to elevate voices. So we're really excited to see what gets posted and be able to hear what students are going through around the world, not just the US, but around the world. So thank you for being a part of this. And I'll pass it back to Chris.
Thank you so much. That is kind of the end of what we had planned so far. I wanted to go ahead and say the Q&A box is open. So if anybody has any questions they would like to throw our way, whether it's regarding, how Senior Portrait came about, how you can get your students to participate, or anything specific to the process, feel free to drop those in the Q&A box right now, and we'll be answering here really quick. I also wanted just to say thank you to all of the panelists that we had on tonight. We really appreciate being a part of it here at Student Reporting Labs. This has been a really fast paced webinar to put together, and we've loved every minute of it. So thank you to Joe and Catherine and ASCD for including us in all of this. And finally, after we're all done here, we will be emailing everybody out not only the recording of this webinar, but we'll also be sure to include links to the Student Reporting Labs website, where you can find all of the steps for the Senior Portrait process. And we'll also be including a post survey. So please fill that out. We love doing these types of webinars and we want to do more of them. So please give us your feedback on that. All right, so it looks like we do have a couple of questions in the Q&A box already. Panelists, if you want to go ahead and turn your cameras back on, I'm probably just going to go maybe round robin with this. So Stephanie is asking, not all of my seniors are 18. Will they need a media release? And I'm going to throw that one to Leah to answer.
Yes, they will. Not to publish their own content. I mean, they can publish it on their social media and use the hashtag. We will be coming back to students whose content we want to use maybe on broadcast or in Student Reporting Labs, content on our social media platforms. So yeah, everyone will need a release if it's going to be used, if their videos are going to be used in other ways besides their own publishing.
Great.
And will be a Student Reporting Labs release that we have. It's our general regular release.
Great, and we'll reach out to those students if we need them.
Exactly.
Okay, perfect. And then Tom has asked, can we donate to add to the prizes available?
That's an interesting idea. I think what might be, this is off the top of my head, a good idea is if you're you know, in your local community, if you're trying to really drum up some, you know, within your school, within your district, within your state, maybe it's a good idea to create a local prize, you know, maybe creating your own kind of challenges, challenging each other, having the seniors challenge each other to create content and submit it. I would think, you know, that might be a good way to kind of just motivate more students to participate. But we'll keep thinking about it and talking about it, and we'll get back to you if it kind of makes sense to open up the national competition, the national prizes.
Yeah, and I think that's a great way to get more teachers involved too, sharing it with them to share out to their students as well. All right. If anybody has any other questions, please feel free to drop them in. Michelle has asked, can the student story involve other students, kids, or is it only to be the one student?
What do you
think? That's a really great question.
Yeah.
You know, I kind of feel like it's probably, I mean, given the social distancing aspect of everything that we're doing right now with COVID-19 and the pandemic that we're facing, it's probably best to keep it to the one student and more of a first person storyline. If they have other B-roll of students already maybe saved on their phone or something like that, that would be a really great way to add that in there. But just in the air of caution, maybe keeping it individual. Erica has asked, what is the best way to collect all of the footage? My students are struggling with getting the footage. Do we have any workflow ideas?
I think we're imagining this to be very simple. I don't think we're imagining much B-roll, which is the other video besides the person talking that you can use for editing purposes. We'd like to keep this very simple because we want it to be shared broadly, you know, far beyond student reporting labs who are used to using B-roll and editing footage together. So I would say start there. And then, you know, if students do feel like they want to take it to the next step and capture B-roll of their day and, you know, edit something together, that should all be done locally on their, you know, you can do it on your phone, you can do it on your computer. I don't imagine that there's going to be that much sharing of footage across different sources, if that makes sense. But if there's further parts to that question that I'm not getting, let me know.
Nope, I think that makes sense. The best way is going to be just sharing it on their own social media and then, you know, tagging Student Reporting Labs and ASCD in there, and also using the hashtag Senior Portrait is how we'll be going through and kind of curating those for the judging process.
But that does bring up an important point, which is that you should, as educators, encourage your students to save their footage, because if we come back to them because we want to use it in a broadcast piece or a local station wants to use it, or in other ways, you know, that footage is going to be taken to other places, it's always great to have the raw footage and as much of it as possible so that it makes editing much easier. So definitely encourage your students to keep their raw footage besides what they post on social media.
Yes. And Tom asked, can we publish this contest widely? And the answer to that is absolutely. This is not just an SRL project. This is definitely a group effort here between all of the organizations involved. And please share it as widely and broadly as possible. We'll be combing through all of the footage that we see hashtagged with Senior Portrait, and the more students that we get involved, the more student voice that's shared, the more impactful this campaign becomes.
And Chris, I know that some people may want to participate, but they're like, I don't know how to share the information. And maybe you could talk briefly, because I know up on the Student Reporting Labs website, there are sample tweets, Facebook posts with all the hashtag information there. There's a graphic they could use. And it wouldn't take just a couple of seconds for somebody to take that down, you know, customize it to meet their needs, push it out through all of your friends and really help it go viral. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So you'll see right on our website, and Marcus did share it in the chat a little bit ago, but I'm going to ask him to be on the spot and do it again right now. A link to our website where all of that information is stored. So we did put together kind of a 1 or 2 pager around the senior portrait campaign itself, and it does include all of the steps that Leah went over. In there, you'll also find a press release, and like you mentioned, some of the graphics that we've put together, social media tweets, samples, as well as the images that could be downloaded and reshared. So I will also be sure to kind of package that all together after this is all completed and email that out to everybody who registered to be here.
And something else I did was I called my local radio station and newspaper. Radio station has already done an interview with me, and the newspaper is going to do one next week. And so I think anybody online could call the local media and say, hey, this is a great way to celebrate our seniors. Schools are really starving to find ways to do this. My administration was 100% behind it already. And so you might think about all of those local contacts, and boy, it doesn't take very much of that to make something small grow big very quickly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I got CPS on board, and that's 400,000 students. So all the teachers in CPS are pushing it out. And I got BEZ, sort of like the local NPR is doing an interview and a story about it. So, I mean, I think just reaching out locally can garner a lot of results because people are excited about it. Like everyone who hears about it wants to do it. So
that's awesome. All right. Well, I don't see any more questions in the Q&A box. We'll hang out for a few more minutes if anybody else wants to drop a question or two in there and we can answer it. Otherwise, again, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us tonight. We really appreciate your time. Looking forward to see what your students put together. Otherwise, stay safe, stay healthy, and have a great night, everybody.